Welcome. Today, I'll be discussing track planning. So, one of the first things you gotta know is just how much space you're working with. And that can come down to factors of room size, or do you got to put other stuff in there? So, that's stuff you gotta take account, how much space you have available. So, I have it's more of just a rough estimate. I'm just using close to an average of the room I'm using. They're not exact, but they're pretty darn close. So that's something you got to do. So there. So in front of if you and I will discuss each part. So right here you have a 6 by 16 foot table, and that's basically adding on to it. But one of the things you got to take account is if you're doing a whole table, this is your table right here if you're just doing a table layout. One of the things you got to take account is door. Then you have to take account the space between the wall. And at the minimum, you at least want about, depending on, I have a foot and it's not very comfortable. So you want to do 2 feet. Probably I recommend it so you can easily get back there from both sides. And if you have dead space, like, but this is scrunched up to the wall, so that's something you got to keep in count. And that space you're using is 96 square feet. Now I'm gonna go into more depth about this. Is now you out of that 96 square feet of table, only 72 square feet of that is usable. You have a dead space of 24 feet because you only want about arm's length, and most people, depending on it, between 2 to 3 feet. So I'm just gonna stick with the standard of 2, and that does add up further along. And I did the math, and I showed you how I got the math. This is probably the most depth you're gonna get with my math. But let's say you decided to kind of like have an open middle of it. So, and I do have 2 variations, and this is just using that standard 2 feet from both sides. So out of that, you get you could add that 16 becomes an 18 because you're adding that 2 feet you lost with that walking space. So yeah. And I know my pictures aren't really that accurate, but from here to here is 4 feet. You got 14 because you got to take 2 feet from each side, and you just go underneath the table itself. You could do a bridge to get through, and I do something similar to one of the last, but out of that, you got 104 feet out of that square feet, and after the open space in the middle, which is 56, you just subtract that and you get 88 feet square, and I forgot to square it like the fool I am. So you actually get more space. Now let's say it's like, well, you're probably wondering that exact same table, the exact same layout, with the exact same space. But let's say, well, you're probably wondering, why is that 4 feet? Well, that's 2. Well, you can't get back behind the wall. You have this tucked in the corner. But what you can do is go underneath the table, which is now 4 feet, and you could be able to reach behind the other table. You could reach from both sides of the table. That's something you could take account to, because you want to be able to reach your train if it derails, cars crash. So you want to be able to have that, be able to reach and grab it. So always measure, see how far you can reach. But if the standard person, I'm stick with that 2 feet, 2 or 3 feet. Well, if you just stick with the 2, you got 2 feet going from this side, and you got 2 feet going from that side. And it goes from both sides. And my camera's focusing in and out. So, when you do the math, it becomes 120 feet square, and I forgot to square it again. Darn it. And it's about, you gain about 32, I believe. Yeah, 32 feet square. 32 square feet more by doing that. Now I do a Hail Mary. So, and this is using every part of the room for the most part. And one of the things, you're still stuck with the 2 feet. But out of that, you get another 20 feet on top of that if you did than the previous. Even more if you did that. But you're probably wondering, like, well, you got to be able to open the door. Now, one of the things I would say is if you don't do like a bridge right here, you'll need to go up that way to be able to turn the train around. And that could be about 6 feet from both sides. So, at that point, you'll probably have to put a hole right here if you do the whole loop and come back around. But you don't, in DCC, you do not want it to loop back into itself. You want it to either have a dead end or have it connect to the end over here at one point. So something you could do is just cut over here. But you can always do it like a bridge option. Or you have a table that you could roll in and out. The hardest part is just lining the track back up. But you get 146 square feet, and that's including that space. If you do like a rolling table, you could roll in and out and kind of stick it so where it's not moving and your track doesn't get. But keeping your track connected between these pieces will be the hardest thing. That's probably what you're struggling with. And the smaller the scale, the harder it is. Because track's going to move. And you can always just edge around here and put scenery in these spaces. But this is just a rough estimate. That's something you got to take account for. So that's why it's really important to just take a tape measure and just estimate how much usable space you have. Now, something else you could do is, let's say, well, I want to be able to have a way to turn my trains around without really putting too much effort. You can always just build a Y, have it come down. You could have the train come in and then back out the other way. That's not an estimate you could do. But it gives you more space. And you can always add a table to have sidings, put sidings in, do more work, have scenery. I mean, if you only have a space, enough, like you just want to use all the dead space in the middle, you can, like that first table I showed. You just put scenery, and the best thing you do to help with that is just basically build a barrier, because it'll make, if you put tunnels and stuff like that, it gives you more of a, you can't really see locomotive, and you want that to happen because it gets your brain thinking, it's like, oh, it's taking, even if that train's moving really fast, it seems slower because you're not watching it. A train out of sight will always get you anticipated for the nets when it comes around that corner. But if you found this useful and enjoyed it, hit the like button, comment. If I got my math wrong, just let me know. But if you want to stay connected, hit the bell icon and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day.